Have you heard of Arundhati Roy, the author of such masterpieces like The God of Small Things and The Ministry of Utmost Happiness? Welcome to number 9 of my arm wrestling with COVID-19 in London. A few days ago, I was reading a piece in the Financial Times, authored by this very author herself, Arundhati Roy, an Indian novelist and an activist who really is outspoken in her defense of our common values. Unfortunately, the FT had left that piece hidden behind the paywall, so I don't know how many people managed to read it. But I would like to read one of the concluding paragraphs of that article in the FT. Arundhati Roy wrote, almost concluded, and in the midst of this terrible despair, it offers us a chance to rethink the doomsday machine we have built for ourselves. Nothing could be worse than a return to normality. Historically, pandemics have forced humans to break with the past and imagine their world anew. This one is no different. It is a portal, a gateway between one world and the next. We can choose to walk through it, dragging the carcasses of our prejudice and hatred, our avarice, our data banks and dead ideas, our dead rivers and smoky skies behind us. Or we can walk through lightly, with little luggage, ready to reimagine another world, and ready to fight for it. Feisty words, combative words, strong words. And this is what really worries me. Because having read her piece in the FT, and having thought for the past few weeks, as I have, like many others, suffered the confines of self-isolation, how are we going to use this pandemic in the future? What is the strategy? What is the exit strategy? What are we going to do once we are over this dreaded virus? And we will be over it. I don't know whether in days, weeks, or months, but we will eventually be over it. And what worries me is that some politicians across the world, and even some big business, might take advantage of our grim realities for their own benefit. Just look around you. Forget for the moment London, forget for the moment the United Kingdom, and go a little bit further afield. Arundhati Roy, in her article, is quite scathing of the approach and the methodology, or lack thereof, of the Prime Minister Modi. But other than India, what about Brazil? What about Egypt and the prisons in Egypt? What about the UAE, which makes us, the UK government, pay for the Excel building where we have actually now constituted the Nightingale Hospital, the first of many in the country? What about Hungary within the EU? And even the big players within the EU. What about France and Germany? How helpful are they to their neighbors Italy and Spain? I know that Italy and Spain are very upset. But what we have to remember also is when we condemn the EU for not acting, for not constituting or drafting a war economy, for not coming to the succor of its 27, 28 member states, that it is not the EU as an institution, but it's member states that make those decisions, and it is the member states that should be addressed with our criticism, not necessarily the institution itself. And then, if I take big business, I don't know if it's true, it might be just social media tittle-tattle. But what about the items I read, that masks which were meant to go to Spain were diverted to Turkey as President Erdogan, like Trump, like others, even like us in the UK, suddenly woke up to the fact that this is not just a passing cloud, but a serious crisis. What about those masks that were diverted from Spain to Turkey? What about apparently the masks millions that were diverted from the EU, from France and Germany to the United States. We, the small people, we, if you want, the great unwashed, there is no shame in that, should be vigilant, should be cautious, should be careful, and we should ask for honesty and transparency. This is my worry. It's not only how we manage this medical crisis, but how we manage the political and economic crises that would certainly ensue as once this virus has been somehow contained and we get rid of this dreadful reality that we're all living in, or at least most of us are living in. Meanwhile, all I would say today is to urge you to listen to Her Majesty the Queen's address to the nation. It was, in fact, when I listened to it, it was almost like a papal urbi et orbi. She addressed the UK and she addressed the world. She got the timing right and she got the pitch right. And we should abide, as she said, by the guidelines given to us for our own good and welfare as a country. Also, I should add here, get well wishes to our Prime Minister who is in hospital, and good luck to Sir Keir Starmer, who actually became leader of the Labour Party after a very decisive result in the leadership and deputy leadership elections. Let us be cautious, let us be vigilant. This is not being complicitous, this is not being critical, this is just us defending our own values in front of politicians and big business alike. So wash your hands, stay in as much as you can, and let's keep all our fingers crossed.